Welcome to Eureka Tempus. If you are new here, consider subscribing to our community of learners. Like this video because you would enjoy it, and drop a comment if you have any question or just want to say hi.
Today, we are going to explore a practical skill that we use almost every day without realizing it, and that is rounding numbers to the nearest whole numbers. Imagine you're at a store and the total comes out to be 25 naira 2 kobo. Instead of dealing with kobo, you might just say it's 25 naira. This process of simplifying numbers to make them easier to work with is what we call approximation. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define a whole number, determine the reference digit as regards to approximation to the nearest whole number, and solve practical examples on approximation to the nearest whole number. A whole number is simply a number that does not have a negative sign, a decimal point, and also not a fraction. To the left of this slide are whole numbers from 1 to 10. Sorry, 0 is not included there. However, 0 is also a whole number. Among these numbers, you can't find anyone with a negative sign, decimal point, and a fraction. In approximation, we follow three simple rules that apply to different methods, whether we are dealing with whole numbers, decimal places, or significant figures. The first thing we have to do is to identify the reference digit, which is the digit you are going to focus on to decide how to round off. If this digit is between 0 to 4, it's a round down digit. The preceding number stays the same. If it is between 5 to 9, a round up digit, the preceding number is increased by 1. The key to remember is that while the process is the same, the reference digit changes whether you are working with whole numbers, decimal places, or significant figures. For approximation to the nearest whole number, the first number after the decimal point is the reference number. The preceding number is the one right before the decimal point. By following the rules of approximation, you can easily decide how to round off number correctly. Like in this case, the number that is immediately after the decimal point is 7, and that is our reference number with respect to approximation to the nearest whole number, and the preceding number, which is the number before the decimal point, is 5. So our preceding number here is 5 and our reference number is 7. Now that we have covered the basics of rounding numbers, it's time to put this knowledge into action. But wait, why haven't you subscribed to this channel? Please hit the subscription button and notification icon so you'll be notified when subsequent videos are uploaded. Now let's approximate this number 56.6408 to the nearest whole number. Remember the rules that are applicable to every form of approximation. First is to identify the reference number. Secondly, if the reference number is a round down number from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the preceding number remains the same. And thirdly, if the reference number is a round up number, the preceding number is increased by 1. Also remember that the preceding number is the number immediately before the reference number. It has been noted that the reference number for each type of approximation varies. For approximation to the nearest whole number, the reference number is that number which is immediately after the decimal point. If you check, the number that is immediately after the decimal point is 6. So 6 is the reference number. And if you check, the preceding number is also 6. This is the preceding number. That is the number that comes before the reference number. So 6 is the reference number and 6 is the preceding number. What does the rule tells us? The rule says if the reference number is a round up number, the preceding number is increased by 1. And if the reference number is a round down number, the preceding number remains unchanged. In this case, the reference number is 6. And if you can recall, we say that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all round up number. Therefore, 6 is a round up number, and because 6 is a round up number, the preceding number is increased by 1. That is, the answer becomes 57. We have approximated to the nearest whole number. As you can see, the answer is 57 because approximation to the nearest whole number implies the elimination of the decimal point. From the outset of this lesson, we noted that a whole number is a number that is without a decimal point. Hence, 56.6408, which has a decimal point, has been approximated to 57, a number without a decimal point. Let's solve more example for better understanding. Okay, we have 43.56, 6.024, 24.862, 30.28, 64.90. Okay, we are approximating to the nearest whole number, and you should remember that the first thing to do, you must have these three sets of rules in your mind. The first thing to do in any form of approximation, be it whole number, decimal places, or significant figures, is to identify the reference number. And remember that the reference number for each type of approximation differs. So the reference number for approximation to the nearest whole number is quite different from the reference number of approximation to significant figures and decimal places. So for each case of approximation, you must be able to identify the reference number, and after identifying the reference number, the rules hold for all of them, the remaining two rules. Now in this case, and in approximation to the nearest whole number, the reference number is always the number that is after the decimal point. In this case, the reference number is 5 here. The next thing after you must have identified the reference number is to check if that reference number is a round up number or a round down number. If it is a round up number, that means the preceding number, which is 3 here, would be increased by 1, and that is our answer. So 5 is a round up number, therefore 3 will be increased by 1, and we have 44 here. In this case, 0 is the reference number. Remember, the reference number for approximation to the nearest whole number is the number that is immediately after the decimal point. So 0 is the reference number here, and 0 is a round down number. What does the rule tells us? That if it is a round down number, the preceding number remains unchanged. Therefore, we have 6 as our answer. In this case, the number immediately after the decimal point is 8, and 8 is a round up number. Because 8 is a round up number, the preceding number, which is 4 rather, is increased by 1, giving us what? 25. I will leave you to do this remaining two. Just pause your screen and pause the video and try. I believe you must have tried them out, so let's solve. In this case, the reference number is 2, and 2 is a round down number, therefore the preceding number remains the same. In this case, the reference number is 9. 9 is a round up number, therefore the preceding number is increased by 1. We have 65. So in our next lesson, we will study approximation to the nearest decimal place and significant figures. Thank you.